Hi folks, for those of you who don't know, my name is Glennie LeBaron and I'm the Summer 2021 Stewardship and Outreach Assistant. Today we're going to be talking about what's inside your monitor packet and how to use those materials to prepare for your visit, conduct your visit, and then later write up a narrative and other materials that will be handed in when you hand your packet back into the office. So we are going to be using handout 2, which is an example monitor packet, and then the what's in my monitor packet handout as well to go through those materials. Now, when you come into our office, you'll pick up a packet, and what's inside it may look slightly different depending on what type of property you are monitoring for us. So a fee-owned property or one that's owned by Ausbon Sargent will have slightly different documents and forms than an easement that may be monitored. And so we'll go through, this is a mix of both, and I'll let you know which one we are looking at a given time. What's inside your packet is a mix of materials that are helpful for you to look at and helpful for you to get information about your property, and then a couple of forms and directions about how to properly describe the visit that you took. So again, your monitor visit can be split into 3 parts. There's a before you visit part, a during your visit, and an after the visit. And that's really clear in the volunteer monitor, in the conservation easement monitoring checklist. So if you have a fee-owned property, you'll have one type of checklist. And if you are monitoring an easement, you'll have a different type of checklist, but that outline is still very similar. So that's what we call our monitoring protocol. Which that list is listed over here, easement monitoring protocol. And so it's a really helpful way to keep yourself on track and make sure that you are hitting all those goals when you need to be. So going through that sheet, we can again split it into prior to the visit. Your first step is to pick up this packet. Then you review all the contents in it. So make sure that nothing's missing, make sure that you have a general understanding for the property, plan when you are going to be able to make that visit. And then what you'll do is you'll contact the landowner, and there's a form that you'll fill out, ask them a couple different questions, ask them if they want to join you, and make sure they know when you're visiting their property. Finally, you'll gather all the supplies that you'll need for your visit itself. And then once you're on the visit, there are a couple different goals. First, you'll want to walk the property boundary and make sure that everything is as it should be. You want to inspect the interior, make sure there's, again, nothing unusual, nothing that doesn't match the past documents about the property. And then finally, you'll want to take lots of pictures and find a way to remember your route, because that's going to become important during the after the visit portion. So after the visit, you're going to want to fill out a couple different forms. You're going to write a narrative, which is just a paragraph or 2 about your visit that you conducted. And you're going to want to create a photo log. There are a couple different ways to do that, but generally you want to end up with a printed form of the pictures you took and a way for folks at Ausbon Sargent to connect those photos to different locations on your map. So this checklist, like I said, is really helpful in going through all the different steps that you'll need to take to properly monitor a property. Now, the next thing that you'll find is a form of conservation easement deed. That is going to be, this type of document is only for easement properties. This is the agreement between the landowner and Ausbon Sargent about what's allowed and what different restrictions are in place on the property. This document can be 15 to 20 pages and can be have quite a bit of legal language and can be difficult to follow, but it is good to at least read the first couple pages where it has a general description of the property, and it will also list some of the restrictions and that way when you go onto the property and if you see something, you can know if it's allowed or not because it will be listed in the easement. So that's listed here, a copy of the conservation easement deed. That's where this matches. So this handout only has the first 5 pages. The pieces that will be important to you do tend to be in the beginning of that document. And then another really important piece of information that you'll find is a survey map. This shows you where your property is, how big it is, where the different boundaries are, and it will show you important features and different bearings so that you could use a compass to follow the property line. I highly recommend that you look at this and look at it closely before you go to do your site visit. It'll have important information like where you might want to park your car, where you might want to access the property, how big it is, whether you can do it in 1 or 2 days. It may even have things like existing trails. and roads on the property. There's a whole other video about how to properly read a map and how to use the survey to plan your visit. So you can go check that out as well. But you'll have this in your packet. There'll be a really big one and a smaller one. And you should definitely take these with you when you go out to visit the property. Now, this is a similar checklist. This is the fee-owned property inspections checklist. So again, it just takes you through the different steps that you would take if the property that you are monitoring is fee-owned or a property that's owned by Ausbon Sargent. You'll notice that you don't contact a landowner because Ausbon Sargent is the owner, and that you do a couple of the tasks seasonally instead of annually. So it's just slightly different, but the structure, like I said, is very similar. And at the end, it is you are submitting a form, a narrative, and some type of photo log. Now, in addition to your narrative and photo log, you will be filling out some type of form. That form will, again, be different if it's a fee-owned or an easement property. This here is the fee-owned inspection report. And so then we can go down to this document and look at, for Ausbon Sargent owned properties, we'll see there's listed here a fee-owned property inspection report. This is relatively straightforward, and a couple of these pieces you will be able to do before you visit, and then many of them will be about your visit. So it's a good idea to, if you don't take it with you, to right away when you get back, fill this out as soon as possible so that your visit is still fresh in your memory. And definitely review some of the questions, review the questions before you go so you know what information you're going to need when you come back. And it shows you, it has a list here of different things you might need to look for, and you'll see it'll ask you when you went and to include photos, maps, or anything else that you might have about your experience there. And then again, and then next we have the form for an easement. You'll see this has a whole different section about communicating with a landowner. So in this example, it says, please speak with the landowner and ask them these following questions. It's a great idea, have this form next to you while you talk to the landowner, and then you can just go through question by question. And again, don't forget to ask the landowner if they would like to join you when you visit, and definitely let them know when they should expect you. It's always nice to give them a heads up. And so there's this before section, and then a during the property visit. So very similar to the fee owned form, review these questions before you go. You don't necessarily have to take this out with you, but you should fill it out very quickly after you get back while your visit is still fresh in your mind. And now, whether you have a fee-owned property or an easement property, you will be getting a volunteer form. This is a way for Ausbon Sargent to track how many hours our volunteers are spending helping us, and just fill it out as you go. If you're doing a couple hours here, a couple hours there, just add them up on the form. If you're doing multiple visits, again, you can just add them and put them on the same form. One thing to note is that if you are working as a pair, like a husband and wife or two friends, you should each have your own form. You should not be on the same one because you are two people going out, so we want 2 sets of hours from you. In your volunteer packet, there should be 2 copies of these at least, if not more, if there's a group of you going out. So yeah, this part is just about time. And then also do keep note of how far you're traveling to get to Ausbon Sargent. And if you are printing photos, you can put down the cost of the photos, though mostly what people will do is just print their photos or email them out. Great, so this is kind of a big overview of what's in there, of what you will receive. These forms are for you to fill out. You can write on the map during your visit. These are great tools for you to prepare and conduct your visit. And then once you get back, like I said, organize your photos, make them in a document that's easy to share, fill out the appropriate set of volunteer forms and either a fee-owned property inspection report or an easement form, or this, yep. And then at the end, what you'll do is you'll write a narrative about your visit to the property. This is just a couple paragraphs to explain where you went, what you saw. This is an opportunity for you to describe if you saw anything that doesn't match with the deed or with past monitor visits that you may have conducted. This is a great way for you to say exactly what you saw, when you saw it, and where it was. It's important to be descriptive about locations you're going to, especially if you're describing possible areas of concern so that it's easy for staff members to go back and look for them. And you can see this is an example that has been broken up as if someone went for 2 separate visits. And this is the example narrative. It's actually uploaded as a separate handout. Yeah, so that's an overview about what's inside your packet and when you can use it and how you can use it to create the different files that you may be bringing back once you're all done with your monitor visit. Hope this helps. Thank you.